Well, welcome back to the Experts Podcast. Welcome to a new season of the podcast. It's great to be back, and we're going to launch into some of the big matters, the things that are happening in media that we need to be paying attention to, and we need to be taking account of when it comes to putting our brand out there, our expertise out there. Now, last year, you will remember I had Darryl, Sparey and Simon Murphy on to talk generative engine optimization. A fantastic podcast to get a sense and a feel for what is going on in the background, what is going on with AI and how it's working and operating. Now, one of the great things that comes from any podcast that you do, it tends to have more questions than necessarily the answers that we got. And I'm pleased to announce that I have got Valerio Veo on the podcast to have a chat about not just AI, but to chat about all the things that are going on. He is the founder of 3 Tomorrows. He has one of, I think, the best resume that can go around. Let me start, because when I first met the fella, he was on the ABC over in Perth, but then went over to Walt Disney. But before that, he went to the AFL. He was working around there. And I've got this man to thank for sending 2 of my kids to Disney Paris. Well done, Valerio Veo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, mate. It's great to be on the Experts.
Now, tell me a little bit about what you're doing. You've got, like I say, got one of the great resumes of media and communications, brands and marketing. What are you doing with this new business?
So I left Disney a couple of years ago, basically because I saw the freight train that was AI coming, and I knew that out of all the disruptive technologies that I'd witnessed from my journey as a broadcast journalist into digital media and beyond, that this was going to be the most transformative. So, I took some time out. I retooled myself on a lot of the AI tools, and I would probably confidently say I'm a power user, I guess, now. And I really feel like I now understand that mix between the traditional digital media world, the traditional broadcast and television and radio world, as well as the AI world. So I founded 3 Tomorrows basically to be able to help organizations, founders, CEOs, senior leaders navigate this space overall. So I'm doing, I've done some consulting for people like Jam TV, Eddie McGuire's production company. I'm working with a generative engine optimization startup called Norg.ai, which is really interesting. And that's kind of fueled a lot of my interest in this area. And yeah, I'm writing a lot as well. So I've got a Substack where I unpack a lot of this stuff week to week.
And it is the Substack that we're going to have a chat about, because you've just put up a post only in the last 24, 48 hours there that I think is going to get everyone's attention, because it is a challenging question, a question around the end of SEO potentially. Is Google hitting ground zero? In fact, it is titled "The End of Search is Nigh, How to Survive Google Zero." Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Google Zero, I'm not going to claim any credit for that. That was coined by the editor-in-chief of The Verge, a very, very well-respected tech publication and tech publisher in the US, Nilay Patel. And it effectively foreshadows a future where Google sends zero traffic to your website. So the whole idea of SEO, where people were focused on, keywords and kind of trying to be very clever and tapping into all of those systems, well, that's been completely upended. Google, quietly, if you read between the lines, announced that they are really tripling down, quadrupling down on AI. And while Google was very slow to the party on AI, they are catching up really, really fast. So they are using the opportunity to embed their AI models throughout every single product that they do, including search. So what that means for search is that instead of getting that search term in there, who are the best accountants in Geelong, for example, and you get that list of 10 blue links. Well, now you'll get effectively a scan of a bunch of experts, and they'll say, go talk to these 3 people. So really, I think in a nutshell, the way businesses can think about it is that we are moving from search to answers. And that's how we need to think about ranking within those chatbots and LLMs.
From search to answers. So this is a very big adjustment for a lot of people. They're going to be thinking, well, hang on, don't I just pay my way to get to the top of the list? Don't I just purchase my little spot or my little keyword or search word? And this was a big discussion that we had with both Darryl and Simon with regards to where Geo does look and identify its content, its pool of content that it works from. Are you effectively saying that SEO is now over? It's the time of SEO. The last 25 years that we've been experiencing this and working with it has now had its day?
It's a complicated question with probably a nuanced answer. I'd say broadly the answer is yes. We are moving towards a future where SEO becomes, less important. But interestingly, Google still recorded record revenue from their advertising platforms in the last quarter. So I'm not sure necessarily that you're going to see it disappear overnight. However, we are seeing some pretty scary stats overall. Things like, when Google gives you one of those AI summaries, 93% of those summaries end without a click through to a website. We're seeing a lot of similar stats like that. Publishers I'm speaking to are seeing search traffic plummet by 30% year on year, and that trend is only set to continue. So getting your brand and getting your kind of persona and your presence on AI is going to be just a massive focus. And I think, frankly, it's caught most businesses on the hop.
It's interesting that click through, because I would question then, Val, the idea of someone clicking through, are they really connected or committed to that brand or that product or service, as opposed to really doing their homework and research themselves? And that's where I think where AI, and you talk about that answer world, is that it's giving you the answers, but it's not necessarily giving you the easy access or the ease of getting through or to jump onto a website that we all see as the win. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, the problem is right now is that all the AI agents are scanning for particular websites and particular information. And when you look at the top 5 sources for AI, it makes for some pretty full on reading, because if you look at ChatGPT, the top 5 are Wikipedia, Reddit, Forbes, TechRadar, and LinkedIn. Across Perplexity, Gemini, Google AI Mode, and Google AI Overviews, YouTube and Reddit are in that top 5 for every single one.
Mm.
Journalism sites are barely cracking the top 10, let alone the top 20. So it's a significant change in how things are working. And I think you're going to see businesses and companies scramble to try and catch up now.
One of the big points that both Darryl and Simon made around the pool of content that AI is looking at is very much in that earned media space, or that space that hasn't necessarily been paid for. You just mentioned there that the journalistic sites don't necessarily break the top 20. But we're talking about a lot of content, though, aren't we? We are talking about a lot of data that is out there that is in that earned media space, but not in the paid space. So basically flipping the SEO model.
Yeah, I think so. And look, there's an argument for that whole flippening, if you want to call it that, because, there's a real sense within tech that Google search product has become, to use a very common term now, enshittified. Like, it is degraded to the point where you're getting any organic search results are barely making the top page. If you run through a Google search now, you'll see a huge amount of sponsored and paid for placements, but getting that content up into that feed is becoming much, much more difficult unless you're throwing some significant money at it and, lining the pockets of Google. So I think there is going to be significant change. And I think it's one of those things that companies need to really think about and start to adjust for.
Is there any danger that the AI model is just going to take on the SEO model, the paid for model, the let's raise your profile, let's raise it? Because look, these guys aren't in it for shits and giggles. They're not in it for charity. They're in it for money. And they know that they've got everyone's attention. I mean, there's 1.2 billion users of ChatGPT right now, whether in the free or paid for service, and it's only growing astronomically. That they're going to build it so that everyone's on it and then make money. Is that where it's heading?
I mean, that is the standard playbook for most tech. I'd say with AI, there is some nuance to it. So ChatGPT has announced it will roll out ads, and the entire ad industry is waiting with bated breath to see what that actually looks like, because early indications were that you could chat to the ad. So if it was an ad for a travel agent, you could say, great, well, I want to book a holiday to Japan next year. What do I need to know? But others, like Anthropic, aka Claude, they've vowed that they will never have any advertising on their site whatsoever, and they're chasing more enterprise. So that's why they're better at the coding, the Claude co-work, all of those kind of products. But they are going to have to make their money back. And given that the AI expenditure on data centers is set to top $1 trillion next year, there's a big shortfall, and there's a lot of investors with their hands out who will want that money back.
And they'll want it back quicker than maybe the SEO days, where the change of the algorithm, the change of the rules, if you like, as to sort of how you get posted higher and above. What about the SEO industry, Val? Because it is a very big industry. It's part of a lot of marketing firms. It's a part of a lot of, it's even for micro businesses that are running around there. And God, heaven forbids all the spam emails I get on telling me how much I should be spending on my websites to improve its profile and SEO ability. What does this mean for them?
Well, yeah, I might be a little bit controversial here, because, I think I see almost every SEO agency saying that they can provide GEO services and they're able to deliver those GEO results. But the reality is they're just, tweaking their SEO, and they're just using SEO to try and turn up in GEO. And it's a completely different system. The way it operates, the way it reads. As I said, it's looking for answers. So if you're, shopping for a pram for your new child, instead of going, what's the best value pram I can get, you're actually asking that chatbot, I live in an area with really bad footpaths. What's the best pram that I need for that? So instead of using keywords, instead of using, all the normal standard tips and tricks of SEO, this is much more about building a directory of knowledge and of answers, and actually working through that with the AI to build out this full suite of knowledge that it can draw upon whenever it's asked a pertinent question.
A lot of our listeners will be thinking about this, because they'll know that they need to ask the right questions to those that are taking care of their marketing or positioning them as a leader or an expert in their space to be seen. What are some of the questions? What are some of the questions, Val, that we need to be asking of those that are looking after the gatekeeping, the positioning of our brand out there, to be AI friendly, to be considered in that search? Because we've discussed earned media. Earned media, 25% of it is from journalistic. The other side is your blogs, your owned media is even up and about. You mentioned LinkedIn earlier, Reddit, all of that. What are the questions that a lot of the listeners have got to be asking of their people, how they can be AI friendly?
So I'll go through a few steps here, because I think there's 3 or 4 steps that really will prepare you for the GEO, the new GEO era, if you want to say. So step 1 is obviously optimize for those citations, not for clicks. So as I said earlier, you've got to stop thinking about search and think about answers. So instead of doing it the old way, which is what keyword do we rank for, you go, when a customer asks ChatGPT about our category, are we in the answer? And from there, it's really about organizing a lot of your content. You've got to think about your content in a different way. Right now, if you go to any organization, you'll know right away that there's information on the website, there's CRM information in another system, there's sales decks, there's spreadsheets, there's customer support, PDF, LinkedIn. All of that together actually makes a very powerful amount of content and information for an AI chatbot. But it can't quote a mess.
Yeah.
So it really is about getting all of that information into a single source of truth and building out an AI directory. And then from there, you've got to treat your data as a product. You've got to make it machine readable. So HTML and your website is no longer enough. So you've got to think about things like JSON, LLMs.txt and schema, those kind of things. You don't need to know what they are, but your developer needs to know what they are.
Well,
so if they don't know what they're talking about, get a second opinion.
Run away.
Exactly.
I love that data as product. So we've got to look at it as a product, that it is something we're producing. We seem to spend a lot of time and energy on it. But I don't think we've ever understood what kind of product it is. Just explain that without all the sort of the complex details behind the scenes, the way it's working. What does the product look like?
So I would say, I'm going to use an example like the car industry, right? So, we're talking to the car industry at the moment for my work with Norg. And if you go look up, for example, what's the best value EV available in Australia at the moment, you'll get a series of reviews and recommendations, and not a single car brand will be in that answer.
Interesting.
And the irony is, Nick, that the amount of information that these car brands are sitting on between press kits, product specifications, all of that finely detailed information is available, right?
Yeah.
Those car companies have it, but it's just spread everywhere. If you can build a directory which has that data in that machine readable format, that's the basis from which you can start to build out a directory. And even more importantly, if you want to think ahead, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but that same directory can then become your source of truth for more agentic users. Think like your chatbot for customer support. Think about inbound phone calls being picked up by an AI chatbot, that kind of thing. So you're not only getting it organized for now, you're getting it organized significantly into the future.
Yeah. And I think that's what we a lot of businesses and brands will be sitting on their hands a little bit at the moment and going, oh, look, let's just sit this out a little. Let's just wait till something happens, or, we're actually pushed or prodded to do this. But if you don't get on the front foot, how many people missed out on the SEO opportunity in the beginning? SEO has been around for 25 years. I still didn't understand it up until last year, how that side of that worked.
I mean, it is a black box, Nick, right?
Yeah.
In many ways, it is a black box. And, Google's notorious for tweaking the algorithm. Facebook, we all know what happened to Facebook with its multiple pivots and what that did to so many businesses over the journey. So, I think, this is something that needs to change significantly. And, with one of the criticisms I have of Australia, and there are very, very few because I love this place, but Australians, cut off by distance, we're right down the bottom end of the world. We are conservative when it comes to tech.
Yes. Yes, we are.
We are slow to move, and we pay a high price for that. And I don't think this is one that you want to miss out on, For example, if you think about the way AI models are trained, right? It can cost $100 million or more to train a model. It's what's called foundational training, right? So basically, if you go into any chatbot now and say, when was the last time your model was trained? It will tell you it will be last year. And then when there's that big gap in up-to-date knowledge, it'll use a web search. If you can get your data into that AI training cycle, you are going to have a head start of up to 2 years, because that's so expensive. They only train these models every 12 to 24 months. So you get an advantage over your competition, and it's a persistent, enduring advantage until the next time that foundational model gets trained. So there's genuine benefits for having some first mover advantage in this space.
One of the ways that both Darryl and Simon on the previous podcast mentioned to work out if you are being read by AI, whether you are being seen, whether you're visible, was actually just to ask your ChatGPT, ask your Gemini, your Claude, who is the best in your industry? Or even ask questions, or even a little bit more, because it's all about the questions, isn't it? It's not necessarily where it's all going to be rolled out and paid for. But if you're not being featured, they almost said 95% of businesses won't feature there because they've just got no idea, or their content and product data is just not available. That is, I suppose, a great way to start or to work out whether you are in this space, whether you need to be doing some work on it. I think everyone knows that they need to do some work on it, but to what level of work you need to do?
Yeah, I think it really depends on your category and what you're trying to achieve. I think there's opportunities all over the place to carve out a niche, right? Because remember, you're not searching for the best restaurant in Sydney or what pub do I go to this afternoon. You're searching for, I'm going out with my family on a Sunday and I want something that is, kid friendly, and I want a variant menu, and et cetera, et cetera. So people are getting very used to being incredibly specific about their asks. So I think there's opportunity there for you to kind of surface yourself in those queries. So, don't be generic. Go as detailed as you want. You say, I want to know what the best cafes are within a kilometre of my house, and then see what starts to pop up, and have a look at those citations. And then you'll start to get a sense of what it's drawing upon, what those links are, and then how you can duck into them.
I love that, Val. I love that. Dive deep into it. I was talking to another AI expert. They said AI is only as good as the questions you're going to ask. So it is what you're prepared to put in, and the input that you put in is going to be reflective of the result that you get. So you really do need to. You can't just say, "Where's the best restaurant in Sydney?" Where's the best restaurant in Sydney that's in Botany Bay, that is gluten-free and really likes to put on some entertainment for its for its patrons? You've got to get that detail.
Yeah. A live example of that is the guys at Norg did some work for BeFit Foods, which is one of those pre-packaged meal delivery services you get when you're trying to lose some weight and get fit and healthy again.
Put my hand up for that, please.
You and me both, mate. And the one thing that surprised them is they had very good information about gluten-free products compared to other products.
Yeah.
And suddenly they saw this massive traffic spike, and a lot of it was coming from the US because people were hunting for prepaid, pre-made, frozen, gluten-free meals. And suddenly they got cited. So their increase was in the thousands of %, and they had like a 30% sales bump within a matter of weeks. So the other thing to consider as well, it's not like SEO where it takes a huge amount of time to start to build that authority, that domain authority, that knowledge, that reputation with backlinks and everything else. You can get things ranking within a matter of days if you build it right.
You're a traditional media guy. You launched your career at the ABC as a journalist and a broadcaster in your own right. You understand earned media probably better than anyone because you were a big part of it. For our audience that's listening, they are a big player in that earned media space. How important, in your view, is earned media for the capture of citations, for the return of answers that are going to come back to your potential client, the potential person that will work with you?
I think it's part of the mix, definitely. And I think given that, every time you open LinkedIn now, you just see pages and pages of AI generated slop.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for being authentic and being genuine and being transparent and being honest. And I think that earned media piece plays a significant role, right, across the board. So getting yourself out there and definitely taking advantage of all of that is definitely something that should be part of the mix. It's not the silver bullet, but in amongst everything else, it will definitely play a role.
Because what was really interesting was also the data that was coming back to us was saying blogs still very popular. LinkedIn, as you mentioned, is something that it searches. So when you're producing your own content as well and putting it out there so that AI can read it will look at reputable, good quality content to come back as an answer for someone asking a question.
Exactly. And it's about the more detail you can have, the better. So, you know, using that BeFit Foods example, it's about making sure you've got every single macro listed, every single ingredient listed, you know, understanding who this meal is best for, what kind of person would buy it, you know, what the outcome they're looking for. You've got to build a whole context around it. And the thing that people forget, it sounds very daunting to do all of that, but when you're sitting on the information, and when you have AI that you can interact with to help you organize this information, well, that's 50% of the job done.
Yeah.
You know, and then from there, you need to get some experts in to kind of help organize and formulate and build out that directory. But from there, you can definitely get some action happening really quickly.
You're immersed in this. You live and breathe this. If you don't follow Valerio Veo on LinkedIn, do that today. And by the way, you probably have gathered on the podcast, I just like to say Valerio Veo. It's my favorite statement. But you live and breathe it so well that, you know, it is something I'm worried and concerned about, the fact that there'll be a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. There'll be a lot of people pretending to be that solution. And I'd love to know the kind of clients that you're working with, and the kind of clients that trust you to do what you're doing, because I think that's the other thing that we're concerned about is, who do we trust to work with in this space?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. You're right. And, you know, I'm hearing, you know, people are charging $5,000 a month to set up a little local open claw LLM or whatever else. And, you know, that's just highway robbery, frankly. But I think where I'm lucky in that I have that history of traditional media, of working with the brands, of working through from radio to TV to digital and then I went from content, you know, rebuilding the digital presence for SBS News and Current Affairs, and then going into streaming, and then going into product, actually building the websites, running footy tips, you know, doing things like CRM data consolidation and all that really boring but important stuff.
You work with ESPN, Valerio Veo, and Disney. You've not name dropped them either. You haven't name dropped them, and they are... Seriously, if I could come back as Valerio Veo, I would, just to go and work with those two brands.
But sports actually, well, let's touch upon sport, because, you know, the live blogs, the live scores, that instant kind of notification piece from those websites is a really powerful play to protect against, you know, the Google Zero apocalypse, as everyone is warning about. So, you know, it's really, a lot of it is about understanding your unique value proposition, understanding your strengths, and understanding your niche, and going hard after that, rather than trying to be a funnel for everything.
Yeah. Okay. So we've sort of we've worked out that we've got to be in it. We've worked out we've got to try and work out who can be helping us and supporting us. What are some next steps, Val, to just getting there, to getting to the place where I think we're preparing not only for what's happening right now, but what we're going to look like in the future? What's some of the next steps our listeners can sort of put into place?
Well, I'll start by putting the feet to the fire of everyone's listening to this podcast, because what we're seeing now with GEO is just the start. And I think, you know, Google announced Gemini Spark on their I/O conference last week, and that's an agentic platform, which means it will work with your email, your calendar, your files, whatever else, and it will just go away and do stuff. I've got a similar system set up for myself. A great example, I was looking at a hire car for Italy a few weeks ago, and I just went, let's see what Claude could do here. And I gave it my parameters, and off it went. It found car hire for half the price that I had found it at a more reputable dealer, and it filled everything in except my credit card details at the end. And that is step one. What we are seeing next will be a web made for agents and used by agents. So the idea being, with this Google Spark, the Gemini Spark product, that it can integrate already with DoorDash, with Instacart, with, you know, Canva, et cetera, and just execute on your behalf. So if you don't have to search for anything, and it's searching for you. It's buying stuff for you. It's organizing stuff for you. Why search at all? Are we even going to go to the web anymore? So and if you think about all the massive products that are, dominating the internet at the moment, they're effectively databases with a UI on the top, Uber, Airbnb, all the realestate.com.au, all of that kind of stuff, where if you could just tell your agent to go give me a list every Friday of all the houses I need to see this weekend, giving them the price range, the likelihood based on auction results of how much above that price range it's going to go, that kind of thing, then it's suddenly going to change everything. So with that in mind, I think it adds extra urgency to what needs to happen right now, which is, again, organizing your data, getting it into a place, making it machine readable, and, definitely at the end, try to get into that next training run.
Oh, it's a little scary, Valerio. I've got to say this. This is just the scary factor because, and let me play this out too, because I'm a big Terminator fan. And, when everything went live and they all decided to act, and when the machines did it all themselves, they decided to act on themselves. Are we in any danger of this? Because I think when you talk about the search, for some people, the search is half the fun, or at least half the work. You've actually earned almost when you've got that right outcome, that you've got to that place. But are we going too far with this, Valerio?
I don't think so. I think to your point about search being half the fun, Nick, I think the search is still the search. It's just a much better experience because you're having a conversation with AI to get to that destination. So I don't think that joy is about to disappear anytime soon. As far as Skynet and the Terminator is concerned, look, there's this is my opinion, and I know it's an opinion shared by a lot of people in tech, that despite all the posturing and the hype about AGI, which is, basically human level intelligence, the reality is we're not seeing a lot of that yet. The transformer model, which is what built all these chatbots, all the big players use it, is effectively a predictive engine using a bunch of neural networks. Without going into the technical details, it just reads the prompt and it decides what the most likely next word should be in this scenario. And I think that's why you see the same slop turn up in all the AI-generated writing that you see everywhere. The M dashes, here's the uncomfortable truth, all signal, no noise. You'll see it over and over and over again on places like LinkedIn. And let me tell you, I've tried as a test, because I genuinely love writing this stuff myself, can it emulate my voice? And I've given it dozens of writing examples and multiple instructions, and it's got writing style files that it draws upon every time it writes for me, and it's still not right. And I still have to say, mate, where those M dashes come from? I told you they were banned.
Yeah.
So instead of doing it for my writing, I'm using it to help formulate my arguments. I'm using agents to go and do my research. And that research comes back to me through the filter of the projects that I'm doing. So context is everything. And it's going to become much, much more useful. But as far as, artificial general intelligence, AGI, is concerned, I just don't think we need to worry about that for a while yet.
Well, don't you worry, Valerio Veo. There's no bot that could emulate you anyway, even if they try. There's not enough. I
like to think so, Nick.
There's not enough energy to power one of those bots. Great insights, Val. I really do love that. I think it's given everyone a little bit more, because to the point around the podcast that we did with Darryl from Hard Numbers and Simon from Indigo Murphy, was the fact that it did pique our interest as to make sure that we are doing something in this space to prepare and get ourselves better, to be better communicators. And then going down a little further, though, but to what length and to what level? And I think this has woken us up a little, that It is here, and I've almost got a word from you. I think you've broken the news on the fact that SEO is dead. Is that can I claim that one for you? But I mean,
Well, no, you can't.
no.
You absolutely can't. But, and I think to use another hackneyed AI term, I think Google said the quiet part out loud, which was they said in their presentation, this is the biggest change to search in 25 years.
Yes.
And that little search box will now expand and expand no matter how long a question you put in there. And the first port of call will be an AI summary. It'll be an answer. It won't be a destination.
Yes.
So we've got to prepare for that. Definitely.
It's a change of behavior.
It is. It is a change of behavior. I am very bullish on the fact that it's going to be the biggest transformative technology that we will probably all live through in our lifetimes. It's going to change entire operating models. It's going to change org structures. I'm not one of those people who thinks it's going to cause mass layoffs. I don't believe that. I believe there will be short-term pain, but I get a genuine sense that there's a lot of demand from boards and shareholders to show AI efficiencies. So companies are reacting to that and making room for AI integrations. But in my view, I feel like it'll be a pendulum. People will dive right into the AI stuff and try and replace as many humans as they can, realize it's not up to snuff and that it actually needs a human oversight, the classic human in the loop scenario that everyone talks about, and things will start to come back. But things are changing fast. Things are changing often, and it's really important that you lean in and stay across it.
Yeah, I love it, Val. I love it. So the whole point around, and particularly our interest from the Experts podcast, is that this is where you're going to be found. This is how, and make sure that you realize this in your future client, your future connection relationship is going to be found this way. One other big thing I do want to impose from a media stable perspective, particularly when working with media, is that AI can help you get there, but make sure the human content is in your story, in your blog, in your content that is out there, because again, it is what defines you. It is bring you back to you. Fair call?
Ironically, I would say this rise of the machines, if we want to call it that, actually focuses the real value back on human elements, communication, relationships, knowledge, understanding, just that community element that actually brings it to the fore. While there might be some disruption to many services, I think at the end of the day, true value comes from humanity, and that will remain.
Totally agree, Valerio. Totally agree. Hasta la vista, AI-generated content. You will not be seen in the earned media space. Hey, great to chat with you, Val. We've known each other for a long time, and
very long time.
Very long time.
Very long time.
But what I'm super impressed with what you're doing now, you not only have skilled yourself up and have got that track record and history of traditional media through marketing and branding, that you've really identified what I think is, well, obviously is the future, but a place where you can help and support those that just don't have an idea. And I think this is a great message for everyone. Don't wait to understand, if you go back 25 years ago to understand what SEO means, the dark arts, and it'll change the algorithm. We don't quite know where AI is going. And I got that from you, Val, is that it is emerging and changing and developing, but it's best to be on top of that wave than being dumped by it. And I think that's the message.
I think so. And I think, if you don't want to, if you want to be cautious about it, I think just carve off a little bit of that SEO budget and throw it at GEO, try to get that information organized. And when it gets into that right format, the payoff can be swift and it can be very meaningful. So there's a lot coming. This is just getting warmed up. And, if people do need help or they just want to have a conversation, no obligation, find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me, happy to have a coffee or do a virtual chat with anyone just to understand their problems and give them a few bits of advice.
Oh, it's very generous of you, Valerio. Well, look, let's drop your email here and your website. What's your number? Sorry, don't give us your phone number. Give us your email.
It's just val at 3tomorrows spelled out.com.
Excellent. And Three Tomorrows, what's the inspiration behind that? Where did that come from?
That was, I won't take credit for that. I'll give that credit to my wife. It's basically the concept that we have three kind of futures ahead of us, and the past is no longer an indicator of the future anymore. So really, the options are all there, and it's up to you which way you want to go.
She's very deep, that Sarah Veo. She's very deep and well considered. You're very lucky, Valerio.
Yeah, I am.
Mate, thank you for coming onto the podcast. Connect with Val on LinkedIn and take advantage of his offer there to reach out and understand it a little bit more, particularly from the big brand perspective. You don't wait for this to dump on you. Get on top of the wave, ride it, so that you're doing it in the best possible way that you can. Because I think too many of us are just going to sit on it. And I take your point, Val. In Australia, we seem to be, she'll be right, mate. And it's not going to happen to us, but way too often that it is. And you need the best people around you. Hey, Val.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. I hope to do it again someday.
Excellent. Valerio Veo with us on the Experts Podcast. Thank you very much. And thank you to you listening and tuning in wherever you are. The season has kicked off, and what a great one to kick off with. Get ready, get focused, understand what is in front of you, and you'll be able to do your best. And speaking of your best, look forward to hearing and seeing and speaking to you next week when we talk to another expert and another media. We'll see you then.